今日、シンガポールのサークルライン、マリーナベイからハーバーフロントまで、プリンス・エドワード・ロード経由、その区間が開業になりました。でもね、こっちとこっちが一致してない。理由があります。実際にはサークルライン、シンガポールのサークルラインには、山手線と似ているんじゃなくて、僕があんまり詳しく知らないけど、そのサークルラインは実際に大阪の環状線と似ていますよね。いくつかの直通運転があるんですよね。内回りと外回りだけじゃなくて直通運転がある。ドビーガー、ハーバーフロント。昔はその区間だけでした。あとは、なんだろう。支線がある。Promenade, Marina Bay, Bayfront. 昔が、こちらが支線でした。でも今、支線はこっちとなりました。その区間が開業されて、外回り、内回りと、いわゆる直通運転の区間便、ドビゴッまで、こっちからこっちまで。はっきり言ってないけど、将来、こちらだけじゃなくて、仙東山までの支線が作る予定です。今、モノレールが走っています。こっちが廃止されて、新しい支線が作ります。こっちかな。あとはこっち。でも、こっちとこっちの直通運転が全然なしで、直通運転の区間はこちらだけ。山手線には似ていないんですよね。So now to explain this in English, I've explained this many times. It's okay if it's just a casual joke, an informal joke, it's fine. But to actually equate Circle Line and Yamanote Line together, like to actually equate the systems together, it's not a fair comparison. And also not to mention that Yamanote Line literally off-peak hours, it runs 6 minutes frequency. I don't know what frequency Circle Line currently runs now, but I'm pretty sure it's not 6 minutes. And by the way, off-peak. 通勤ラッシュ、帰宅ラッシュの時、必ず違うよね。And just a random history lesson. In the past, this line was called Yamate-sen, like Yamate Line. It was only until not recently, but like few decades ago, I would say, they changed it to Yamanote Line to distinguish it from the other Yamate areas. Like there is one area in Kanagawa named Yamate, and then there's also Seishin Yamate Line at like Kansai or some, I forgot where it's at. It's just like how, place names, they change over time. Even their spellings could change over time. And their pronunciation in this case as well. So, in the past, it was called Akibahara. And then they changed it to Akihabara. Which is why if you hear Akiba, that's what it was referring to. It was referring to the past. Like Akiba no Yodobashi camera, like it's referring to the past. So this image is like directly taken from like JR West's like official website, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, this is just trying to show that instead of being just a loop line, there are also true services in and out of said loop line. One that goes to, where is this? Nara, and then one that goes to Universal City, and where is this? One that goes to Wakayama as well. So yes, there are many true services. So it's really no different from the current Circle Line, whereby, again, historically, right, Circle Line, it opened in stages, and then it was like this. Then they added a branch, and then this used to be the main line. Now it is a branch. They closed out the loop, and yeah. But the key difference between Circle Line and Yamanote Line, and the reason why you should never ever compare both of them side by side, is because of this branch line, which, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like a smaller scale Osaka loop line. You can think about it. Now, the Sentosa branch line in the future, I don't know if it's going to be a loop or if it's going to be just one end-to-end branch. Doesn't matter, but that one is not going to have any... They share the same... They would share the same rolling stock as the main line. And in case you're curious, thank you to one of my commenters for reminding me about this. The reason why they added an extra 0 in the stickers, they added one digit, which is the 0 in the physical stickers for every individual Circle Line car, is because they foresee that the number of trains is going to exceed 100, and then that's why they've added it to account for the future trains. So it's currently at 87, right? But in future, I forgot what number I mentioned in my previous videos, but it's definitely above 100. So to account for all the extra trains that will be needed in future, they added a 0 in front. But then internally, they don't really care whether there's a 0 or not. That's only used for fault reporting. And internally, the notation that they use is PV, like PV87, or even in future, there would be like PV, I don't know, 102, let's say. Okay, that's not important. That's just extra information. But the reason is because, minus the future Sentosa branch line, the fact that Dobi got to Prince Edward Road exists, Tokutun, which means true service, instead of like in addition to the anti-clockwise and clockwise loops. If this were just like anti-clockwise and clockwise, then okay, maybe you could make the comparison with like Yamanote. But the reason why the whole argument falls apart, I don't know why netizens even try to justify this, but the reasons why it falls apart is because there is a branch line with true service. And this is very important. So if you take a look at like the actual Yamanote line, which geographically isn't a circle, but it's more of like a diamond, or maybe an upside down raindrop, if you will, or a teardrop, whatever you want to call it, but it's definitely not a circle geographically. Operationally, it is a circle. But then even within the circle, right, there is like Ikebukuro Domari, there's also like Osaki Domari. In addition to like the usual Uchimawari, Sotomawari. And the same goes for like Circle Line as well, because late at night, the trains have to like withdraw to Kimcheon Depot. I forgot if the station that they withdraw at is like Taiseng or Bartley. I forgot which one it is, but I'm pretty sure you could withdraw trains at both stations, or launch trains to either of these stations. Concept is similar. So another key point, which is again the exact same thing, I'm just rephrasing it. The reason why Yamanote Line is operationally a circle is because it's an enclosed loop. Then you might think of Oedo Line, which is run by Toei. The operations, even though geographically it wraps around itself, it loops around itself, kind of like Bukit Panjang LRT. Like, where is Bukit Panjang LRT? I'm just gonna roughly draw Bukit Panjang LRT. Now Tenol Junction doesn't exist, but whatever. History is important, but there's also differences between, I'm just gonna extend this discussion, between BP LRT, which technically Bukit Panjang is Nagaoka if you think about it. That's why I call it like Nagaoka Light Rail, just for the haha, even though that's not its official name. But okay, the reason why is because clockwise, anti-clockwise loop, it's continuous. It's continuous for anti-clockwise, and then via Senja, it's also continuous. Betir or Senja, they're both continuous. Whereas this isn't continuous. They actually stop at Tochomae. So it's end to end. It just so happens that it wraps around itself, and then you can transfer from like here to here. There is no true service in the case of Oedo Line at Tochomae, but you can transfer at the same platform. So functionally, it looks like a gigantic version of Bukit Panjang LRT, but functionally, it's completely different. So you could make the joke that, oh, BP LRT looks like Oedo Line. I've even made that joke many times, but I do know that operationally, they are different. So the keyword here is enclosed loop during revenue service. It doesn't matter if other train services were to use the line for non-revenue service, as long as during revenue service it's an enclosed loop, it is a circle. But because Osaka Kanjo-sen and like Osaka Loop Line and Singapore's like Circle Line today, there is true service to a branch line during revenue service. And because of it, operationally, it is not a circle. Yes, there's an anti-clockwise loop and a clockwise loop, but there's also all these trains that go outside the main line and into the main line because now Dhoby Ghaut is a branch. So this very reason explains why you guys should really stop comparing Yamanote Line with Circle Line. And the frequencies are completely different as well. And then there are even much more intricacies between Osaka Kanjo-sen and Circle Line as well. Because Circle Line is grade of automation level 4. Whereas Kanjo-sen, I'm pretty sure it's still GOA 1 because of how many crew services it runs. I don't think that line can ever be automated, to a high degree at least. So there are some technical differences as well. But if you just want to compare, this train line has a lot of crew services out of the main line during revenue service, then yes, you could make the comparison between Circle Line and Osaka Loop Line. So I just wanted to, the reason why I'm making this video is because I just wanted to make the distinction between these two. And if you want to have like a real serious argument between comparing this or that, it is not a fair comparison if you compare Yamanote and Circle Line. It is only somewhat fair if you compare Circle Line and Osaka Loop Line. And I only added the extra bits so that, people know that I'm not just some like cut and paste AI slop YouTuber. I actually know my stuff. So yeah. And also it's just good to share knowledge in general. Because I see so many comments, I know they're lighthearted, but it's like, and some people are like actually serious about it. They're like, Singapore finally has its own Yamanote Line. I'm like, no, you guys have a branch line, and it doesn't even operate like Yamanote Line in the first place. And let's not even talk about like free trains or non-revenue service trains. Even operationally, they are so different. Not to mention the fact that like you would have all these trains like, again, it's non-revenue, but crossing over to the Sentosa, either branch line or loop line. I don't know what you're gonna call it in the future once the Sentosa monorail is no longer a thing, and then they're gonna replace it with Circle Line, right? So essentially, it just wouldn't look like a circle anymore in future. Even though, yes, it's talking about non-revenue service, but really, it's not even a circle. It's like this and this, like, or even this and this. Like, how are you guys gonna call this a circle? And there's literally also one more thing that completely defeats the whole Circle Line argument. Yes, I know that there are some bus services that kind of like parallel Circle Line in general, regardless of which sector I'm referring to. Yes, I do know that this exists, but if we were just to compare train lines, right? Okay, let's go to Yamanote. The reason why the whole Circle Line equals Yamanote, Singapore Circle Line equals Yamanote Line argument falls apart is because, you see, you have like this Keihin-Toku line paralleling it. And not just that, I do know it's not just paralleling. From, is it 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. or like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.? I cannot remember what the exact time slots are. I'm bad at railways, I'm sorry. I'm more of a bus enthusiast, but still, I have some basic railway knowledge. And I'm literally in railway school, so yeah. So between, okay, during off-peak hours, let's just say AM off-peak. Keihin-Toku line trains, they will run as rapid services. And then on Sundays, weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, and public holidays, they would call Okachimachi as well in addition. So yeah, it's way more nuanced than you would think. So along the eastern side of the line, from, what is that station again? Tabata to Shinagawa. Okay, technically I shouldn't use Shinagawa or like Takenawa Gateway as a fair comparison. I think the last station that you could cross-platform transfer between the two in the same direction, I think the station is Tamachi, if I'm not mistaken. Like, the Keihin-Toku line trains and Yamanote line trains, depending on the timetable, some of the trains are actually designed to machiawase, like hold for each other, right? So yeah. But again, if you just want to talk about duplication, the eastern side of the line is being duplicated by another railway line. Now, I don't really care if like, during what time to what time it runs rapid service. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, like in this context, right? The fact that it has like a duplicating railway line makes it a not fair comparison with Singapore's Circle Line. And then before anyone tries to tell me, like, I literally live here, and then I have had like Singaporean commenters telling me that like, you should look at how crowded the Yamanote Line is. I'm like, that's not even like the most crowded train line. You should look at Tokaido Line, Ueno Tokyo Line True Service, Takasaki Line, Utsunomiya Line. Okay, Takasaki Line technically has higher frequencies than Utsunomiya Line. I kind of learned that the hard way. Because I go to I take Utsunomiya Line because I need to like get to where I need to get to fill my buses, but okay, whatever. That line is like crowded. You should look at Tokaido Line. Saikyo Line, that line is crowded. They're way more crowded than Yamanote Line. And not to mention, Yamanote Line's like whole, I know peak hours is going to be crowded anyway, but, and that's why thankfully all these like parallel lines exist. I mean, regardless of how many stops they skip, all these parallel lines exist. You got like the Joban Line True Service, you got Tokaido, you got Utsunomiya Takasaki Line True Service, and then over here you have like Saikyo Line, Shonan Shinjuku Line, and then there's like a Sotetsu True Service as well. Okay, but never mind. If you're talking about local, aside from like AM off-peak hours, these two, again, I'm just talking about new ones, because apparently a lot of people on the internet, especially all these casual bus or train fans, they don't understand nuance, so I'm here to help people understand nuances. Local duplicating sectors. So it's kind of like, it's not entirely accurate to say that the demand is like lopsided, because even this part of Yamanote Line gets demand as well, but okay, never mind. Just take it that the demand is lopsided. Why? Because there is actually Keihin-Toku Line helping this part of Yamanote Line tank, but between Osaki and, in fact, from Shinagawa, Osaki all the way till, let's say, Ikebukuro. Okay, now this top part of like Yamanote Line isn't that crowded, despite it being the unique sector, but between Osaki and Ikebukuro, all the intermediate stations, like all the in-between stations that do not have Saikyo Line, Sotetsu Line True Service, or Shonan Shinjuku Line, The reason why Yamanote gets so crowded but still it's not the worst, it gets crowded along this portion of the route is because it's literally the only line that's serving these areas. So the demand is lopsided. So for you guys to claim that like, you should go look at how crowded the Yamanote line is. And then I'm like, which part of it? The thing is, I know the answer, but you guys are so lazy. It's like you want to throw statements at me, but then you don't even know how to back up your own statements. I never understand people, man. And also not to mention that Yamanote Line right now is primarily operating on, I don't know if they've actually upgraded yet, but a grade of automation level 2. Kein Toko is still GOA level 1. They haven't gotten rid of like the conductors yet. And then Circle Line again is GOA 4. So completely different. Although I did notice that Yamanote Line trains tend to dwell for a shorter period of time as compared to Kein Toko Line trains. On average. Primarily because of the like higher levels of automation you could say. So yeah. Okay, but whether to determine whether a train is like GOA 1 or 2, you have to see if the driver, under normal circumstances, I'm not talking about like rainy weather or like any emergency circumstances where there's like daya midare or anything. Under normal circumstances, you should see GOA 2, the train driver is actually pressing either 1 or 2 buttons. Usually it's 2 buttons for the train to depart. And then for GOA 1, they actually drive the train. So yeah. And then for GOA 2, if you drive the train, like actually drive the train, it's called manual mode or whatever you call it. So really, the comparison isn't just about like, circle, yay. No, there's a lot more like nuance to it, which explains why you shouldn't compare Yamanote and Circle Line, okay? I'm really sick and tired of making these videos. I don't want to keep making them again. Bye. Enjoy your whatever Circle Line.